Hey gang, it's Lou Bortone. Welcome to the video bunch. I am thrilled and delighted to have my friend Johnny Beirne here. How do you say your last name in the right accent?
Yeah, it's burn. Yeah, same
Beirne.
as if you stick your hand in the fire, burn. So yeah,
And as you may be able to tell, Johnny comes to us from Ireland, which is very exciting. I don't tell people this often because my whole brand is sort of this, Italian good fellow wise guy thing. But my great grandmother's name was Annie Murphy, and she was from Cork, so I do have a little Irish blood in me as well.
yeah. Well, that will help with the whole persona that you have. Although they did clash a little bit, right?
A little bit, but we have the in New York we had the West End boys and all kinds of interesting
Yeah.
hoodlums. In any event, we're here to talk about gear and all that fun tech stuff. As you can see, I have a green screen. Johnny has a very elaborate setup, which he'll talk a bit about. There it is, folks. It's all smoke and mirrors. So thanks again for being here and really appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you kind of got into this whole area.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose the big thing that I do, Lou, is I help people address the elephant in the room. And that is where they're not showing up on camera and on screen in a way that does them justice. And as a result, they're just not really getting the conversions and the results and the sales and the profits that
Hmm.
they deserve. People are basically judging them, rightly or wrongly, on their what is now the new shop window,
Hmm.
which is the Zoom. Zoom is the new room, and the screen is the new stage.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I help people to do, and I take them behind the scenes and behind the screens of having a very simple yet effective and professional home or office studio where they can, as I say, address the elephant in the room and have some fun with things like pattern interrupt during their presentations. But I mean, more than that, just to be effortlessly being able to move into their slides,
Hmm.
to disappear when they want and continue to present, to reappear somewhere else. So to avoid essentially death by PowerPoint
Right.
when they are presenting or meeting people.
That's amazing. And I know personally, I've taken your course and I've started to adopt some of the stuff. Like I was always sort of anti-teleprompter for a while, and then I finally broke down and got the slide glide gear that
Glide
you
gear,
recommended.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
now I just have to train my eye to go up to where where the actual teleprompter is when I'm not using the script. So you're doing
Sure.
a lot of really, really fun stuff, and people are probably like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" Tell folks, what's the basic setup without having to go totally crazy on setting up your studio.
Yeah, so first and foremost, as you know, it's lighting is
Yep.
key and a reasonably good camera. I often say to people, if you had $100 of a budget, spend 75 on lights and
Yeah.
25 on a camera,
Hmm.
so to speak, or if you have 1,000, then, kind of 75, 25. So it's really important, lights. I mean, even if I was to switch over here
Hmm.
and open the app that controls my lights, I mean, if I turn them off, we start to look like something in a witness protection program. We're
Exactly.
just a silhouette of ourselves. So lights are really important. Then a reasonably good camera, and there are some amazing cameras out there right now for a couple of $100.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, you make direct eye contact, and from there, then you can start to perhaps get something like the Stream Deck, which
Right.
is a little $150 switch that can be programmed with the different scenes, as we call them, as we present. So this is a scene, this is a scene,
Hmm.
and there's different scenes. We got breaks, we got countdown timers, but essentially we can do this with a green screen like you have.
Yep.
Um, and again, there's a pull up, there's a pull down, there's different versions. And it just allows us to effortlessly transition into our slides, to disappear and to
Hmm.
reappear whenever we wish.
I disappeared for a second. Sorry about that. I was trying to show my green screen and I pressed the wrong button. So I'll be back.
That's okay. That's okay.
Let me just do this. There we go. Yep, so I'm back. Anyway, yeah, but that's really cool, and I'm sure that's the what you mentioned is key, is that we're all communicating now by Zoom, hybrid
Mm.
meetings, obviously the last few years. And you don't want to look like, what the expression I like is, a hostage video. And I've seen some very professional people look very unprofessional, even on CNN, with these like, oh my God, are you in a basement somewhere? So it's really
Mm,
important to, what you see is first impressions matter, and you don't want to look like a hostage video. So
exactly. Yeah.
right. So is it the
And even
lighting?
even some even some simple lighting that you might have at home, and get that camera up to eye level that you're not looking down into it. It's
Right.
amazing how a couple of simple things can
Hmm.
transform you immediately, and then you can work on it from there. The other thing we share too is, perhaps rather than even PowerPoint, to maybe open up a whiteboard and to, to describe some stuff for people, or draw maybe a strange
Yeah.
diagram or whatever, and we can disappear. So again, and we can move up. Like, I use this when people say, well, where's your lights exactly? And I say, well,
Yeah.
I've got one here and I've
Hmm.
got one here, and I stand on the X, and they're
Yeah.
pointing at me at 45 degrees. And, so that sort of interactive, engaging type learning for our webinars, our meetings, our sales presentations, really, really effective as well.
It's so great because it's so much better than just sharing, these boring black and white slides. And it's all kind of, I have the six version of the Stream Deck, 6 keys here, which is really inexpensive. And, just that you can do all that stuff at the push of a button is great. And you can do it on the fly. So even if you're live like this, you can still have a pretty elaborate presentation. Um, Talk a little bit about teleprompters. For me, I was really hesitant to go that way because I didn't want it to look too scripted. And you talk
Yeah.
about, what is the glide gear?
Yeah, so I use the glide gear for two things. Number one is, if I switch over to this other view, I use it
Right.
so I can see you in the
Yeah.
teleprompter.
Hmm.
So that's really useful for one-to-ones, where
Right.
I can maintain eye contact and still see the person on screen. And the other reason then we use it, particularly for course creation,
Hmm.
promo videos,
Yeah.
where we're not going live necessarily, we're doing pre-recorded videos. The
Yeah.
teleprompter is really useful because we can script it in advance, we can proofread it, we can
Hmm.
have a think about it. Is this exactly what we want to say? We can even sleep on it and come in the next day and go, what was I thinking? Or,
Hmm.
this is actually great, or make a few tweaks. And then we load it into the teleprompter, and essentially it allows us to read with the script so that we get exactly what we want to say across in the video.
Yeah.
The thing we want to be mindful of is not sounding scripted.
Hmm.
So we use inflection and intonation, which is essentially picking some words, any words really in the sentences, and changing the pitch, the tone,
Yeah.
and in some cases the speed. So I
Hmm.
always say to people, we really need to avoid coming on camera and saying, "Hi, it's Johnny here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use a green screen." So you just add a little bit of energy within the script. You might make some of the words in capitals
Hmm.
to remind you to up the volume, or up the tempo, or up the pitch. Or you might use italics for, you can put little things into your scripts, your
Right.
own little cheat sheet within the script. But the key is to sound as natural as possible, and it does happen over time with practice.
Hmm.
Because if you overdo it, it kind of sounds overly cooked as
Right.
well. So the key is just to, as I say, change your pitch tone and intonation so that you sound relatively natural. And also, don't have the script, don't be using the full size of the teleprompter, because your eyes are going to be going over
Mhm.
back reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And then they're like, what's wrong, or why, or they just know you're scripting, or you're reading from a
Mhm.
script. So and there's some great technology out there for doing it as well.
Yeah, I use Prompt Smart, which is an app. I put it on the iPad, and what I've been doing since I've been doing a podcast lately, which is about 10 minutes, I do script that, and I find it really helpful because I don't panic about what I'm going to forget, or did I include this or that. So it's just a great way to, if you have a presentation or something where you have to give something like that, it's really almost like I think in live presentations they call that a confidence monitor, right? So you know that something's there for you if you lose your place.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see people doing it in the Oscars and the Grammys, and you see
Hmm.
presidents using them, and
Yeah.
so it's not an amateur. People might think, oh, it's a very amateur thing to do. Some of
Hmm.
the world's most prominent figures and presenters use them, as I say, for confidence, because in certain cases they have to get certain things said and they can't leave
Right.
really important things out.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I like about what you teach is that it's not just about the gear and the equipment. Talk a little bit about pattern interrupts and keeping people's attention on video.
Yeah, so we teach people a number of different pattern interrupts. So one of the main ones is just transitioning into the other screen.
Hmm.
So we always recommend you have two monitors, one for your software, your meeting, etc., and one for your presentation. So
Hmm.
that's a simple one, just transitioning into the slide. The
Yeah.
great thing about it as well is that you don't have to say things like, hold on now till I share my slides, and can you see my slides?
Oh,
And
I
then if
know.
you want to go full screen, you have to unshare. So that's a one, just transition in the slide. A
Yeah.
simple one is to disappear and continue to present.
Hmm.
Another one then is to reappear somewhere else. But not so often that it's distracting, okay?
Right.
But just often enough, like every few sentences, you do that, and then you might come back and say, hey guys, type one in the chat if this is making sense. Those kind of engaging things as
Right.
well. um, Pre-framing yourself as well, so you might be a little bit bigger.
Hmm.
Um, that's another one. The whiteboard that we mentioned is another one. A little bit of music is another one.
Mm.
Countdown timers if you're
Yeah.
having a break. All of those things add to the overall production. So really, what we're trying to do, Lou, or at least what I try to do, particularly my live events, is make it feel as much as an offline conference
Hmm.
online as possible.
Yeah.
And because what a lot of people do in longer events, it's like, okay, we're going to take a break,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And
and
they go.
and then you got to come back and go, okay, and you got to get them going again and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they can mute the music, but
Hmm.
even the countdown timer with a bit of animation, and things like a bit of movement in it and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And it's practical too. They can glance back at the screen and say, hey, we're back in 59 seconds.
Right. Exactly. No, that's
So they would be the main ones in terms of pattern interrupt. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is avoid death by PowerPoint.
exactly. So I know, and you had a slide up a moment ago. Could you talk a little bit about webcams? Because that seems to be, there's so many to choose from and so many different price points and things like that. Do you have recommendations for webcam?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have some resources to provide to your viewers. I mean, the C920 has
Hmm.
been kind of the go-to one for a long time, and now, if budget allows, you might upgrade to the new Elgato Facecam. There's even a pro version of it,
Wow.
the Logitech Brio. So there's quite a few of them out there. In fact, what I'm looking at moving to, or definitely adding it, is the Insta 360.
Mm.
It's like a little PTZ.
Yeah.
Comes in at about 400 US
Hmm.
dollars. Um, but it'll follow you if you want to do a bigger production.
Hmm.
But the quality for the price, and it being a webcam, is exceptional. Because
Yeah.
as you know, if you want to go DSLR or
Mm.
mirrorless, like the Sony ZV-E10 or something, you're looking at $700 plus
Right.
capture card to make it talk to your computer,
Yeah.
plus a dummy battery to make sure that it's always got a constant source of power. Um, so you're heading towards $1,000 now. It's exceptional, and it will
Right.
make doing a green screen a lot easier.
Right.
But this Insta 360 is an amazing piece of kit. You can actually make gestures at it, like if you make the L, it'll zoom in. Now,
Oh
you
my
wouldn't be
gosh.
doing that live, but for
Yeah.
making courses, you might just put it up and move it down again and delete it in post production.
That's great, and it saves so much time in editing because I've sort of like done all the things separately and then gone into Final Cut Pro. And the first podcast that I did that was 10 minutes, it took an entire day just because of the editing. So now I'm trying to do more of it
Yeah.
on the fly like this with all those effects. And earlier we talked a little bit about lighting and how important that is. Do you have any recommendations for lighting that won't break the bank?
Yeah, so the big recommendation is to get edge lit LED lights as opposed to front lit.
Yep.
So edge lit might be the Elgato key light.
Yep.
There's ones from Neewer. There's a Relino. So they give off this nice soft light. So
Hmm.
while I mean, if I turn them off, we know what happens when we turn them
Oh
off.
yeah.
And even turning on one of them makes a huge difference, and
Hmm.
yet they're not blinding. So
Yep.
they're a great quality product. They will attach to your desk.
Hmm.
So I have the sit standing desk. So in terms of lights, I always highly recommend that you minimize the amount of tripods. In fact, zero tripods if at all
Hmm.
possible. So
Yep.
ideally, your edge lit LEDs as opposed to your frontlit. I do not recommend ring lights. I
Hmm.
know they're practical from the point of view that you can put your camera inside, but they have to be very much in your face and they're pretty harsh on the eyes. So ideally, one left and one right
Hmm.
rather than one in your face. And as you have it set up there, Lou, they're not showing up in your
Yeah, you can
glasses.
see that it's because I have them a little bit higher, but that like if I had a ring light, you'd see the ring light in my glasses.
Yeah, very distracting for your viewer. I think because they were kind of one of the first selfie type lights to come out,
Hmm.
everybody was using them and thought,
Yep.
hey, they became the norm. But there's so much great choice out there with lights. And with the Elgatos as well, you've got the app to
Yes.
make adjustments. Um,
Which is great.
exactly, yeah. So you can see
Control
what
the
you look like.
temperature and the brightness and that I got those after the I did the course with you because I just had to upgrade the lighting a little bit and have more
Yeah,
control.
and I can give myself a nice tan as well if I just move the meter up a little bit,
There you
and
go. Yeah.
there you go. So good Irish tan.
Yes, exactly. Well, this
So
is
very, very useful with the app. Yeah.
excellent. This is tremendously helpful. Do you have any tips if people are not able to be in studio, if they're remote or on the road and maybe just using their phone?
Yeah, I mean the phone again, lighting and a tripod for the phone. Just
Hmm.
make sure it is very, very steady. I mean, if you're doing your TikTok fly on the wall kind of
Right.
stuff, that's fine. But there's if you're trying to look like this, definitely lighting. Try and be in control of the lighting as much as possible,
Hmm.
and have it on a tripod. And the Rode Go 2 USB mic for about $100 is a powerful mic
Hmm.
that you can plug into your phone or your computer. I've got one of them, and they're amazing value. Because that wearing the buds or
Hmm.
the AirPods, not a big fan of those
Yep.
in particularly for making courses. So that external shotgun mic is very, very powerful.
Hmm. Excellent. And also, I got a standing desk and I'm standing up, and I notice it makes a big difference just in terms of my own focus. Do you do that as well? Do you have a standing desk?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the sit stand desk, which means that I can look like this sitting down if I need to,
Hmm.
and then you can put it up further if you're not on camera and you want to rest your elbows and use it like a desk. What I
Yep.
would urge people to get if there is the anti-fatigue mat
There you go.
for
Yep.
about $30. Uh, like if you're going to be standing for long periods,
Hmm.
then I would strongly recommend the um, the anti-fatigue mat, and it's
Right.
just so much more comfortable. And of course, when you're using a green screen, as I did there, just know where your limits are. So
Exactly.
that's just because of the width of the screen.
Hmm.
So if you're going to animate in your presentations, animate forward and not to the side, or you'll lose your hands. So
Yeah, that would be kind of funny. Like, oh my God, my arm's gone. So,
yeah, so that's not a good look. So we need to avoid that with the green screen. I am working on getting a wider screen, and moving back further where you'll hopefully
mhm.
in the new year I'm looking at where you'll see me head to toe, and it'll look more like a TED Talk presentation for live events, which I'm really excited about seeing. Can I actually pull that off? So.
That's awesome. Well, there's so much helpful stuff that you get, and like I said, your course was tremendous and a huge help to me. And I've been doing this for a really long time. And I came from the TV business. I remember, when I was a lot younger, I would go into the control room when they did the news because I worked at a TV station, and it looked like NASA in there. I mean, now you have on your computer, you can do pretty much the same thing that they're doing at CNN.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of people say to me, like, you must have a few cameras, but this scene, as we call it, and this scene is the same camera.
Mhm.
So all you need is one switch, and
Yep.
then my camera is here. So one switch,
Yep. There you go. Yeah.
the Elgato, the 15 button. You've got the 6. There's also one with 30 buttons. Ideally, a second monitor. This
Yeah.
is the little $50 drawing pad that allows me to use the whiteboard,
Oh,
and I
that's
got it
awesome.
secured to
Yep.
my desk, which is another recommendation.
Mhm.
Nothing leaves the place. So yeah, and yeah, you got this is, as I say, the same camera with the same switch, just allowing me to be in different places. Now, I do have 3 cameras to be able to show people, like the
Right,
green
right.
screen or
Yeah.
the teleprompter, or just show them another angle, which is another form of pattern interrupt as well.
Mhm.
Um, so you really can operate this yourself, and that's what people love to be able to do, because it's just so much more cost effective. And these
Mhm.
days, you don't know when you might be jumping on a meeting, so it's great to be able to have this at the ready without having to hire a studio.
Exactly, and you could do it yourself. You don't need to have producers and switchers and all that kind of stuff, which is perfect.
Yeah, and you can do the editing of your courses during production, as we mentioned as well, because
Right.
you can continue to speak and transition into your slide. And as you mentioned, back in the old days of 2 years ago, we'd have to make the intro, the outro, and the middle piece and
Mhm.
stitch them together in Premiere Pro or Camtasia. Or now we can do the editing during production, which saves people a fortune in time and effort and
Absolutely.
energy and all that good stuff. So.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all these cool tips. Tell folks where they can find you, where they can find the course, anything else you wanna
Yeah,
mention.
we'll provide a link for sure. But one of the things that's proving quite popular, as I subtly reach over to my other monitor here and open it, is an interactive version of the guide that we've created.
Ooh.
So the guide itself allows you to um, basically get free access to a PDF,
Mhm.
which is your standard guide, right? Which takes you
Yep.
through pattern interrupt, some equipment, some slide design. But we've also got an interactive version. So the
Ooh,
interactive version allows people to actually read the course online and
wow.
actually ask questions as they're reading it.
Cool.
So it's like buying a book and then being able to talk to the author. So, for example, you read down through the introduction, you can
Yep.
ask a question. If you're looking at, let's scroll down, we mentioned cameras earlier.
Right.
So, choosing your camera. So, we've got all the different cameras, where your eyes should
Cool.
be,
Yep.
links to all the cameras. But again, at the very bottom, you can ask a question. So,
Mhm.
you can still download the PDF as a normal guide would be, but
Yep.
you can actually read it online and ask questions, and it's interactive in that way. Um, more engagement, how to do pattern interrupt. And we've
Mhm.
got some video demonstrations as well and links. So that's something that people are providing, uh, finding, that we're providing. They're finding it very, very useful, because while there is so much choice in all the gear,
Mhm.
too much choice can be confusing. And I've learned all this the hard way, as I'm sure you have,
Yes.
with gear in drawers and cables and stuff we never use anymore. So this will save you a fortune in time and money by just giving you what works. And it's not that you have to throw out what you have.
Mhm.
You know, you can still use what you have, and some tips and tricks within the guide, and some maybe additional pieces like the Stream Deck can really help you to stand out on the screen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We'll put the links below so people can find all the goodies. And
Yeah,
yeah, and again, you've been a tremendous help to me. So thank you so much for that. And like I said, I thought I was, it's fine. But I remember starting out back in the day with a Home Depot work light, like the kind they use in construction. And
yeah, yeah.
so we've come a long way. It's a lot simpler. And check out Johnny's info to make your presentations and anything you do on screen much more professional. Thanks again.
My pleasure, Lou. Thank you.